everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connected, where we discuss all things mental health, recovery, employment, and stories. I am your host, Billy Gutierrez, and I am excited to be here. In this episode, we will be focusing on support for family members with loved ones that have SMI. Our guest today will share his experiences and provide guidance for anyone supporting their loved one going through their educational journey with SMI. How are you feeling today?
All right.
So let's just get straight into it. Sometimes we can feel hopeless when trying to help a loved one through their mental illness journey. This results in a myth that plagues the community. How did you persevere through this?
Well, this was our second journey. Our son had a learning disabilities diagnosis soon after he was born, and had worked with an IEP, an individualized education plan, through high school. Though at first we didn't know what he would be capable of, the school system and healthcare provider provided a lot of support. He was mainstreamed, and we also involved him in a wide range of regular activities, such as scouting and sports. He made significant progress to where he was ready to attend college when he had a mental crisis. Having gone through this first process helped in understanding that we would need to make the best use of available resources to work through this new challenge, not knowing where it could end, but knowing we should follow the process. In the process of dealing with his crisis, we came to understand that young adults in their late teens can go through a mental health crisis, whether from genetic or environmental factors or poor choices around excessive drug use, and it helped to learn that there were approaches for dealing with it.
What methods of support have you tried?
Well, referring to the SMI period, in the period prior to the crisis, my son was displaying signs of troubled behavior. And since our medical plan didn't focus on one-on-one treatment for my son, I paid for a private psychologist for a few sessions with him. But I didn't find that produced the kind of turnaround I was hoping for. But public mental health care through the police and emergency services helped in crisis situations. Following the first crisis, our healthcare provider provided specific services, particularly in the situations when we brought him in for interviews, when we observed behaviors requiring intervention. Their services for non-crisis care were more generic, but provided an opportunity to meet and discuss care with other families with children in similar circumstances under the guidance of trained professionals. When he turned 26, he was required to arrange for his own health care and treatment through Medi-Cal, since we were no longer considered his means of support, though in fact we are until he starts working. He has received the support of psychologists and psychiatrists through the state program he's enrolled in. In the recovery period, we provided a pill dispenser in the kitchen with 2 weeks of daily bins so that we could monitor his prescribed medicine intake. And once the recovery process started, the Connections program, then Putnam, was very helpful in providing community and development opportunities, particularly his first employment after his crisis. My wife joined NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness, and has a small group of friends she talks with socially about the issues her child faces.
What healthy boundaries have you set for yourself and your son on the level of involvement you had on his life while being away in college?
At community college, our son had already reestablished his abilities to manage independently and advocate for himself, including arranging for tutoring, test accommodations, and early preference for class selection to help with timely graduation. We did not need to manage his educational journey when he went away to university. He managed his own applications, financial aid, and class enrollment. The university program also allowed for testing accommodations, which he took care of himself. When he was away at school, we did provide funds for housing, a car, living expenses, but otherwise left it up to him to live within his allowance budget and keep to whatever schedules he needed to. We had a shared bank account and credit card, and he sent me an invoice listing the expenses for reimbursement, for which I then transferred funds to his account. As a family activity, our son called us daily to discuss his or our activities, and we visited occasionally. He stayed with us the summers when he worked summer jobs, but as he had his own car, he was fairly independent. Now that he is back home, we go on hikes and excursions and dine out occasionally, enjoying the time before he is out on his own again. An ongoing issue is our son is still seeking a more satisfactory level of friendships and connections with others. This is in part a generational problem and may have led to earlier problems in his seeking acceptance in groups not supportive of his mental health. While we offer a base of support, this is an issue where our son is on his own journey, having learned from past experience.
How do you manage your own mental health while advocating for your son?
I spoke once or twice with a counselor through my employer's employee assistance program to talk about the situation and get some feedback. And we talk with close friends who are familiar with mental health issues. And the group sessions through our healthcare provider did provide some perspective on the journeys other families were going through, some more difficult than our own. One book that was mentioned, Codependent No More by Beatty, was useful for putting issues in perspective and enabling self-care. One piece of advice that I applied several times was that when another person is in crisis, that it is an appropriate time to ask for help from sources able to provide it, and not dismiss the seriousness of the situation or fear the resentment of the person in crisis.
Mm-hmm. Now that your son has his bachelor's degree and has successfully graduated, how does this make you feel as a parent who watched him from the beginning, and has this inspired you in any way?
It's great that he's made so much progress and looks like he has integrated lessons about self-care and resilience. These will support his continuing journey to face the issues we all face as adults and keep building a community of friends, work, and activities that support him as an independent contributing member of the community and help him find happiness. His success does suggest that supporting connections, which was critical in his first steps in recovery, is a good way of paying back the help he and others have given along the way.
Was there a stigma in your family surrounding mental illness that you can remember growing up?
We had never had to think about either learning disability at birth or the later mental health crisis, and it was a disturbing prospect at first to face worst-case possibilities. The period in which he went through a mental health crisis required that we be very involved in care decisions and in advocating for his treatment. It was a sometimes scary journey into a world that we weren't familiar with, but we found a lot of professional support. We stayed involved and intervened a couple of times to request better care. Once he started showing improvement, he still had a long road ahead of him, and we were happy that connections existed to help him at whatever level he was at. It has been a journey in learning about diagnosis and treatment, but after a while the situations normalize and you deal with it. Even after having been exposed to the good work performed in the world of mental health, I'm still glad that in our son's case he appears to be ready to move on, but we will be there to support him should he need it.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and resources, and thank you everyone for joining us today on another episode of Connected. We will see you all next time. Peace.